Attention, duped masses!
You're listening to Media Monarchy with James Evan Pilato.
Must flee TV, crumbling empires, and mixed feelings. Plus this day in history with a Hoboken Foreign, our song of the day by Lamb on your Morning Monarchy for September 8th, 2017. I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com. Thank you so much for joining us. We are streaming live, MediaMonarchy.com/listen, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. It is a couple seconds after 9 a.m. Coming to you from here on the best West Coast, but dang, it's smoky up here in the Pacific Northwest. I was asking my buddies Matt and Jake in the chat how their air is up in Washington and Idaho, and I think we all pretty much agree it feels like and looks like it should be raining right now in the Pacific Northwest, but it is not. We all on fire. Hope you're doing well, safe and sound, whenever, wherever you are, my friends. Friday is Media Memes. We look at the entertainment industrial complex. Each day of the week focuses in on a different area of the news. Monday's world news, Tuesday's tech, Wednesday's health, Thursday's weird, and then Friday, we pull our chutes and float down to Media Memes Island. Hey, huge thanks to Debbie of Sane Progressive. She's been hanging out and joining the Morning Monarchy shows, and I can just tell already the action that comes from having her retweet us. So huge thanks to Debbie at Sane Progressive for her help. It's quadrupled our tweets there. Now, we tweet out the show notes. All the stories that we're going to talk about for the next hour, you can get those at the top of the tweets an hour before showtime. You can also get a link to the chat. So we've been using Discord. It's basically a video game thing, but we hijacked it, and we've been using it as our chat for our broadcast because you can actually listen to the shows through Discord, assuming your equipment is up to snuff. But you need an invite to get into the chat. So in the tweets in the morning, you'll find all the stories we're going to talk about, and you'll find the link to listen to the show, and you'll find the link to get into the chat. So again, huge thanks to Andy and Jake and Debbie and Matt, T-Man, everybody else joining us in the chat. Huge thanks. We're brought to you by you, and a huge thanks to our latest patron, Bick White. They went to patreon.com/MediaMonarchy and signed up to give us that little bit of monthly support we need. You've never heard an ad, you've never heard a wild pitch, and as I joked earlier this week, you've never heard us suddenly jump on some bandwagon and act like we're a different thing than we've been doing the previous 12 years. And that's right, Monday, 9/11, will be the 12th anniversary of Media Monarchy hitting the internet airwaves. Well, at least hitting the internet. Then it would be a couple months later, we started the podcast, and it's been slow and steady growth ever since then. And it's all thanks to you. We are brought to you by you. MediaMonarchy.com/support, PayPal, Patreon, Bitcoin, Post Office Box. If you can give a little, I can give a lot, my friends. Let's glance at the breaking lamestream news. Hurricane Irma tears through Caribbean islands and is on a collision course with Florida. Florida governor warns way bigger than Andrew, which actually does remind me, my mom was on one of those awful Carnival cruises, her first and last Carnival cruise, I believe, when Hurricane Andrew was barreling in, and I think they just kind of raced away from it. That's going back into the 90s, I do believe. Meanwhile, and you can see it all pop to life really quickly. I was actually telling Cassie about this the other day. Of course, you'll see on the tweets, this auto tweet generated by a 8-point earthquake. And that's what happened last night, and that's who I saw the tweets from, folks like Sheila Aliens and Swagger Prance. Mexico earthquake, strongest in a century. Has already killed dozens of people, as that's still pretty much a developing story. House votes to send $15.3 billion Harvey aid package to Trump and funds the government all the way through December 8th. Of course, the Lennon assassination anniversary. Speaking of assassinations, suspected Columbus, Ohio high school shooter arrested, in custody. No injuries, thankfully. Meanwhile, Equifax, this is going to be something we're going to talk about next week. And again, the news never stops, and it's always interesting. You should always kind of, if you can handle it, pay extra attention on Fridays, because that's when a lot of news gets dumped out. Equifax announces cybersecurity incident involving consumer information. That's a really verby way to say millions of people's personal information stolen, financial information, loan information, all that. Hey, but don't worry, it's always safe. You can trust them, because you can put it on the cloud. Some of the other sidebar action on the breaking lamestream news is an important one for us up here in the Pacific Northwest. Why the Eagle Creek fire is a major threat to Portland's drinking water. Why would that be? Oh, because they're going to fly over and dump a bunch of flame fire retardant chemicals in the Bull Run water. Another fantastic reason to always, 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 always filter your water. And what would a morning be without a quick fact check? Has Vice Chancellor pay been spiraling? I don't know, BBC News. I'm not really sure what you're talking about there. Did Obama allow a backdoor to citizenship through DACA? That's the Washington Post. Putnam wrongly says it's unlawful for students to talk about tests with parents. That's from PolitiFact. The Office U.S. is returning in 2018? You got to go to Snopes for that. And Gwen Stefani inspired by Blake Shelton love story to write new music made up by Hollywood Life. That sentence almost makes sense. That's your fact check. So you know, if you've got some critical thinking brain cells to rub together. Not so much if you spend a bunch of time watching television. As you may have noticed, our buddy James Corbett, one of his latest episodes, I believe published in the night, Solutions. Turn off your TV. But they need to sell your fears back to you. For many, November 8th, 2016 was truly an American horror story as former real estate mogul and reality TV star Donald Trump was elected president over the expected winner Hillary Clinton. Dozens of media talking heads lost their heads and liberals took to Twitter to express their fear, and yes, there was hysteria to say the least. But few were perhaps as emotional as Allie and Kai in Ryan Murphy's kind of fictional universe. Allie and Kai, of course, being Sarah Paulson and Evan Peters' characters, respectively, on the latest season of American Horror Story, Cult. It debuted Tuesday night. The premiere, written by co-creators Murphy and Brad Falchuk, is over the top in true American Horror Story fashion, but grounded in our very real political state, looking at extreme reactions on both sides to America's next top president.
What's the thing that scares you the most?
It is now official. Donald Trump is the next president of the United States.
Since election night, it has just all been getting so much worse.
The recurrence of the chlorophoria?
Yes. The clowns.
I'll work through it.
He was right there!
Ellie, this is ridiculous.
I know what I saw!
What fills your heart with dread?
Children. I've always enjoyed children. Here, I got this for you. Just don't tell your moms.
I am not making this up.
I don't know how much more of this I can take.
If you get people scared enough, they will set the world on fire. It's the most intense physical pain you've ever experienced.
When I open this door, do not let go of my hand.
American Horror Story Cult premieres Tuesday, September 5th on FX. Join me.
Oh, join the cult. That's about clowns but also politics and stuff. The show basically sounds like they took a kitchen sink approach of everything that was spooky and scary in the lamestream news over the last 12 months and smashed it into a TV show. So I'm sure they were hard at work writing last summer when we were having Clownpocalypse. Yeah, real politics. That's worth a chuckle. But then, of course, they had to throw everything up in the air because of the stunning conclusion of America's Next Top President. So it kind of looks like this entire season is basically about people triggered because of the guy who lives in D.C. Oh my gosh, I don't like that guy killing little kids and lying and cheating. I want a cool guy to kill little kids and lie and cheat. It's possible. Now, the comments on this are insane. And again, everything we say and play included in the show notes. This piece from Variety is essentially a blow-by-blow breakdown recap of the premiere episode of American Horror Story Cult. I've never watched a single episode of that entire series. We've, of course, talked about it here on the show because, again, it's another fantastic way that they sell your fears back to you. And people love it, and they gobble it up. That's one of the numerous things owned, of course, by Sony 20th Century Fox. They'll be woven all throughout this episode. It's quite possible when looking at the comments, and again, taking the whole recap of this episode, American Horror Story Cult premiere recap, election night takes on Trump-era hysteria. Is it possible this entire season, in a lot of ways, is a giant piss take of the left? And their complete over-the-top hysteria and panic because of America's Next Top President. I'd like to maybe read it that way. And again, what better way to make a bunch of money than to sell things and basically give them to people who are having fears? Sorry, I got distracted there. Somebody's calling me on Discord. Hey, yo, I'm on the air. You can't call me right now. I'm doing your morning monarchy for Friday, September 8th, 2017. I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com. That's right. Life imitates art, imitates politics. And I think people probably believe that American Horror Story episode again, just gauging from the tweets and the comments. I think people believe more in that American Horror Story season than they probably believe the latest leaks from WikiLeaks. Leaked emails reveal how Sony, Obama, Seth Rogen, and the CIA secretly plan to force regime change in North Korea. All the reach or the comments and the replies. Ha ha ha, you official lost it. And they have a gif of the former comedian, now Bill Nye, the science guy. Oh, you didn't know? He was a comedian and actor up here in the Pacific Northwest. He used to do sketch comedy. Because everybody thinks that's just crazy. Now, an entire Russian scheme to take over the election, no, that's totally plausible. But back-channel work between the cool celebrity president and a couple of hot, cool movie guys. Pretty sure we read those emails last year. But over the past month, the Trump train's incendiary threats to rain fire and fury on Pentagon vassal state North Korea in response to its ballistic missile program set off a chain of military escalations that climaxed last week with Pyongyang's sixth test of a nuclear device, a hydrogen bomb 3 to 5 times more powerful than the American bombs that destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. As the crisis unfolded, the RAND Corporation, military intel think tank, military intelligence, of course, an oxymoron, thanks St. Carlin. They were founded during the so-called Cold War. They relentlessly promoted the views of Bruce W. Bennett, a defense researcher it calls one of the leading experts on the world's most reclusive country. 2 or 3 times a day, Rand's media shop tweets out links to Bennett's writings on Kim Jong-un, the 33-year-old who rules the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, its formal and preferred name. While Trump vowed to use sanctions, war threats, and diplomacy to stop Kim from developing a ballistic missile that could fire nuclear weapons at the United States, Bennett thinks the only target worth considering is North Korea's supreme leader himself. Glossy books and pamphlets preparing North Korean elites for unification and appearances in CNN, Fox, and that new bastion of truth propaganda, Teen Vogue. Bennett lays out his plans for overthrowing the North Korean government by saturating the country with leaflets and propaganda and providing assurances to potential plotters in the North that they would have a place within a new, unified Korea, but only under South Korean and U.S. control. Blanket the countryside with propaganda. Or, as I had also seen, proffered, what if you just drop them 25 million iPhones and give them free Wi-Fi? You will destroy that country in a moment. So as we look at all of Bennett's spiel, and this actually comes from Alternet. Huge thanks to archive.is for saving the Alternet page. When you think about all this stuff, it kind of maybe reminds you of Bennett's advisory role in the 2014 Seth Rogen comedy The Interview, about 2 Hollywood stoners hired by the CIA to kill Kim. It depicted in graphic detail Kim's head being blown apart, spoiler, by a guided missile fired up by fed-up North Korean elites who had come over to the U.S. side after their conversations with fake American journalists played by Rogen and his sidekick, James Franco. The film was produced by Japan's Sony Pictures, but finalized only after receiving critical advice and assistance from the Obama State Department, the RAND Corporation, and according to a 2014 interview Seth Rogen gave to the New York Times, the CIA. Quote, we made relationships with certain people who work in the government as consultants, who I'm convinced are in the CIA. It's a rough approximation. But this was all under the tutelage of Bruce Bennett, who was brought into the project by Sony Entertainment CEO Michael Linton, a prominent member of RAND's board of directors and a close confidant of President Obama. If I recall off the top of my head, I'm going to wager he's a Council on Foreign Relations member as well. This is massive, massive, massive propaganda. And then the emails started to leak. How Sony, Obama, Seth Rogen, and the CIA secretly plan to force regime change in North Korea. This is the world we live in, and if you think that that's just all made up movie garbage or fake news, probably need to grow up. Maybe crack a book. You're listening to The Morning Monarchy. It's the Media Memes edition where we look at the entertainment industrial complex. Don't worry, we'll return to North Korea because I think we might have a solution. Whew. Now, I had never heard of Bell Pottinger. Have y'all heard of Bell Pottinger? They're basically a big PR firm. Now, one of our friends actually has pointed out it's actually the Truth Seeker app. Bell Pottinger, the PR firm that was paid $740 million for faking bin Laden videos and stirring up South African racism, is near collapse. And that's actually where we kind of begin the story. Stirring up racism and the South African collapse.
In public relations, reputation matters, and Bell Pottinger's has just hit rock bottom. Within 24 hours, its CEO resigned and the British firm was expelled from the Public Relations and Communications Association for breaching its code of conduct. Bell Pottinger was the subject of a complaint brought by South Africa's main opposition party, the Democratic Alliance. Its supporters demonstrated outside the hearing last month. The DA accused the firm of running a racially divisive campaign on behalf of a prominent business family with close ties to President Jacob Zuma. That campaign used slogans like "White Monopoly Capital" to describe the president's opponents on a range of media, including the Gupta's own TV channel.
When this whole discourse of white monopoly capital and pushing, that whites are behind everything, it's touched a nerve, I think, that pulled it up to the surface. It was like basically pouring salt on the wound.
The Gupta family has been accused of exerting undue influence over President Zuma, including the appointment of government ministers. The ruling against its PR firm is the latest in a series of setbacks for the family, which has faced public derision and the closure of its accounts by several major banks. The Director General of the trade body was critical.
It's the worst work I've ever seen. I've been Director General of the PRCA for 10 years. I've seen nothing worse than it, and therefore we took the ultimate sanction of expelling them immediately and of saying that if they wish to reapply for membership, they can't do so for at least 5 years.
Although something of a victory for the opposition, there's no financial penalty and Bell Pottinger is still free to operate, just not as a member of the Public Relations and Communications Association. In a short statement, Bell Pottinger says it accepts there are lessons to be learned, but it disputes the basis on which the ruling was made. It points out the overwhelming majority of its staff weren't involved in the controversial campaign. But in the era of so-called fake news, it's exposed the lengths some corporations are willing to go to.
Corporate media pushing racial buttons? Stop the presses, you guys. Hello, Hollywood? Have I got a story for you? Oh, wait, you guys are already on top of it? Okay. Controversial British public relations firm. That's, the consensus makers, propaganda makers. They know how to get into your brain and affect your emotions to make you buy, think, believe, and act the way they would like. That sounds like crazy conspiracy theories, right? Oh, sorry, I guess I just went to college and learned about advertising. Controversial British public relations firm Bell Pottinger could be forced to shut down by the end of the year if it fails to service its debts. Remember, again, like St. Carlin said, you always got to service that account. It's being reported on Wednesday afternoon that the company has put itself up for sale after being expelled from the Public Relations and Communications Association, PRCA. There are also reports of major clients, including the fine folks at HSBC Bank, abandoning the company that met its own PR nightmare by working with the Gupta family in South Africa on a racially divisive campaign. Bell Pottinger has hired an accounting firm to sell the company and sell it fast. The Guardian is reporting the firm must service its debts by Christmas, while the Financial Times says another one of its top executives has resigned. Speaking to Channel 4, the industry watchdog's Francis Ingham echoes what many in the headlines are saying. It's kind of ironic that a company that specializes in reputation management has managed to destroy its own reputation over the course of a few months. What a shock. I never would have seen that coming. I mean, it's almost as ironic as murderous military soldiers coming back to America and murdering people. Yeah, that's pretty base level irony. Like a black fly in your Chardonnay, right? One of Bell Pottinger's major shareholders has handed back its portion after failing to find anyone to buy it. And again, this is the fickle nature of phony politics. We've been seeing all this past week The specter of Hillary coming back, coming to Portland this December. She's going to be on a book tour. And what do you see? You see pretty much well-aligned, well-meaning left going, oh, I wish she'd shut the fuck up and go away. Oh, really? The woman you said was going to save the world and save everything? Now you hate her and want her to go away. That's the fickle nature of all these phony left-right bullshit politics. Hey, guess what? I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com. Hope you're doing well. We are streaming live, MediaMonarchy.com/listen. We get pretty loosey-goosey here by the time we reach Friday as we talk about the entertainment industrial complex. I don't know if let's look at this story and see if we could file it under not unmitigated good news. At Wandering Girls into travel, camping, and sunsets, Cali Beach Girl 310 is into fashion, bikinis, and yoga. At Wandering Girl goes to Paris, Cali Beach Girl 310 ambles on the sands of Santa Monica. However, the two Instagram accounts with more than 80,000 followers between them have one big thing in common. They're both fictional, made up from stock photos and modeling snaps and a few $100 worth of fake followers and engagement. From March to July, the California-based Media Kicks, MEDIAKIX, all one word, you know, like the cereal your parents made you eat. From March to July, the California-based Media Kicks created the two profiles from scratch and secured 4 paid brand endorsement deals, between them worth $500 in total, including the value of free products. One national U.S. food company was fooled by both profiles. The stunt was a little bit of a white hat move. Anybody can game the system and become an Instagram influencer. All you need is money to buy enough fake followers, likes, and comments. Media Kicks CEO Evan Asano told Hack about a year ago, when the company was choosing influencers for potential campaigns, they noticed one influencer had doubled her followers in less than a week. It was clear she had bought followers. It's known in the industry that influencers buy followers and engagement, but the extent that they do so is almost impossible to know. We wanted to show brands that it was easy to do, and it was happening more often than they were aware. So Media Kicks did a little white hat to basically show how they were being gamed. I think I would file this under a little bit of good news. Oh no! People are tricking multinational corporations out of some free poisonous gewgaws? Womp womp. I remember back at the commercial radio station, new person got hired. Like, oh, everybody's excited. Oh, look at his socials and look at all that stuff. It's like, that's all fake. Those are fake followers. And it turns out, indeed, he had bought fake followers, which was something when they were sick of him and wanted to break his contract and fire him, that was something they used against him. So one of the things they're like, oh, look at him. He's so great. He's got all kinds of followers. Let's bring him on. Oh, everybody hates him. He's terrible. What, did you know he bought followers? Again, the fickle nature of fake left-right corporate media. We are the antidote to that, my friends. You're listening to The Morning Monarchy, and you've seen it by now probably enough times to be sick of it. A man walks down a city street with his girlfriend, head turned backwards, face turned into a Tex Avery ogle directed at a woman walking in the other direction. This is the distracted boyfriend stock photo, an image that launched 1,000 memes, and no one's more surprised at its popularity than the guy who took the picture. Antonio Guillem, a 45-year-old photographer from Barcelona, Spain, spends his days on shoots specifically destined for stock image companies. For most of that time, he's worked with the same 3 models, though he says he parted ways with one of them a year or so ago. His portfolio largely consists of people, some combination of 2 women, 1 man, in the sort of reactive poses that make stock photography such an uncanny delight. But in mid-2015, spurred by successful sales, Guillem wanted to diversify his bonds. You know, like Wu-Tang Financial. We decided to take a few risks, planning a session representing the infidelity concept in a relationship in a playful and fun way. Took a bunch of different shots, came out of that session. Countless have featured the same trio of people through the years. This article from Wired actually shows some of the other pictures that these now fairly recognizable faces were all in. The meme documentation Tumblr, yes, there is one, memedocumentation.tumblr.com, traces distracted boyfriend back to the above late January post in a Turkish Facebook group devoted to prog rock. The group's name translates to Great Answers to Prog Enemies. After that, it lay dormant until this month when Twitter ran amok with it, and it went insano. I don't know if I see our friend Citizens Gateway in the chat, but he's been really good at busting out some original Media Monarchy album art for the day's episodes. Maybe I'll put that to him or put that to you. How could we turn Distracted Boyfriend into a good Media Monarchy cover? I'm not sure exactly what the distraction would be, what the girlfriend would represent. We'll have to work on all that. Dad, where were you during the meme wars? Right on the front line, son. Another Friday and another triple set of obituaries. A lot of amazing people, a lot of longtime artists, a lot of interesting entertainers, thinkers, movers and shakers, all kind of shuffling off this mortal coil. We are definitely we are in the middle of a pretty giant transition period. And so many things are going on that I think news events happen, people pass away, and a lot of times people don't really know about it. I think I ended up being the one to break the news over the weekend with a handful of people who didn't know that Steely Dan co-founder, guitarist Walter Becker died at the age of 67 over the weekend. A rock and roll fan with a penchant for harmony and obtuse references, Walter Becker, the guitarist, bassist, and co-founder of the 70s rock group Steely Dan, which has sold more than 40 million albums and produced such hit singles as Reelin' in the Years, Ricky Don't Lose That Number, and Deacon Blues, died this past Sunday. He was pretty young, at the age of 67. His official website announced his death on Sunday with no further details. Donald Fagen, in a statement Sunday, said that his Steely Dan bandmate was not only an excellent guitarist and a great songwriter, but also smart as a whip, hysterically funny, and cynical about human nature, including his own.
There was another loss in the world of arts and letters. Steely Dan co-founder and guitarist Walter Becker also died yesterday. He was instrumental in producing the funky melodies and enigmatic lyrics that captivated an avid following for the band. Becker and Donald Fagen, a friend from Bard College, founded Steely Dan in 1971. Are you reeling in the The band's first album produced a unique sound in rock with memorable hits such as Do It Again and Reelin' in the Years. Becker's bass and guitar licks would become a signature of the band's jazz-infused sound. Famously introspective, Becker rarely sought the spotlight. Steely Dan toured for only 2 years after their 1972 debut, choosing to focus on producing records. The band stopped recording in 1981, returning in 1993. In a statement, Fagen called Becker smart as a whip, hysterically funny, and cynical about human nature, including his own. Steely Dan was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2001. Here's Becker and Fagen performing one of their hits, Peg, on a 2000 broadcast on PBS.
Seen your picture, naming lights of bugging.
This is the thing that's going to make the robots get me on stupid YouTube.
It's like a dream. So won't you smile again? They're gonna love it.
Walter Becker was 67 years old.
Now, interestingly enough, thinking about the YouTube demons, last Friday's episode I didn't actually get to put up on YouTube, as yes, we've still been having a little bit of technical difficulties behind the scenes. I bet if you're on a mobile Apple device, you've had trouble getting the podcast. If you could get on a desktop device, no problems whatsoever. Still working under the hood. We got Summit, we got Afix, we got Apollo, trying to figure out exactly what's the deal. Again, you can always reach out to me, james@MediaMonarchy.com. So we've been trying to put the shows out in a lot of different ways. I will probably try out uploading at BitChute very soon. But last Friday's episode of the show, it wasn't the song that got flagged by YouTube that it played at the end. Of course, we always end with a song. It was the musical piece in the middle of those people who turned the stage banter of Fugazi into a show. That was actually flagged. Kind of have a hard time thinking that Fugazi stopping me from hearing them talk. See, that's where things get a little crazy. Oh, you're going to take my open source work and occult it? Yeah, I don't think so. Actually, had a College Town buddy whose mom went to Bard College, and he claims some references in early Steely Dan songs are about her. I didn't know enough about them at the time or kind of really care to have it all sink in. You might not know that I'm not the biggest classic rock fan in the world. However, the thing I'll add into the Walter Becker bit, Paste Magazine has listened to what is probably the greatest Steely Dan show ever in 1974 from the vault in honor of the great Walter Becker, one of the final performances by the original Steely Dan lineup, and it happened on May 20th, 1974. I did listen to Asia over the weekend. That is the one Steely Dan record I keep in my collection, and it is fantastic. Of course, every time I play it, you know what Cassie says? I hear this record all the time. It's what they use to test sound systems in venues and convention centers because it is so perfect, so beautifully well made. It's used as a testing album. Our second obituary, comedian Shelley Berman, who won gold records and appeared on top television shows in the 1950s and the 1960s, delivering wry monologues about the annoyances of everyday life, dies at the age of 92.
Comedian Shelley Berman died Friday from complications from Alzheimer's disease at the age of 92. Berman was well known for his monologues of the 1950s and 60s that offered a new brand of comedy, focusing on the annoyances of everyday life. He inspired the likes of Bob Newhart, Woody Allen, Jerry Seinfeld, and other stand-up comedians who also developed their routines around the frustrations of day-to-day living.
Did you ever notice Shelley Berman died last Friday at his home in Bell Canyon, California from complications of Alzheimer's? Our third and final obituary on this Media Memes episode, he earned an Academy Award nomination in 1967 for Festival, his examination of the Newport Folk Festival, and won the Best Documentary statuette in 1981 for his film From Mao to Mozart. Oscar-winning documentarian filmmaker Murray Lerner, who captured Bob Dylan going electric at the 65 Newport Folk Festival and preserved legendary music acts like Jimi Hendrix and Leonard Cohen forever on film, has died at the age of 90, his son said. Died Sunday in New York City. Filmmaker earned an Oscar nomination in '67 for Festival, his examination of the Newport Folk Festival, and he followed violinist Isaac Stern in China From Mao to Mozart. In 2009, he received a Grammy nomination for Amazing Journey, the story of The Who. I believe some of the other photos and things I've seen of Murray Lerner shows him chilling with John and Yoko. Unfortunately, I'm going to put this next bit of news up against our obituaries. Paste's thoughts are once again with Charles Bradley, the screaming eagle of soul, the spectacular Daptone Records soul singer who's just announced the cancellation of his upcoming tour dates to illness. Beloved performer was previously diagnosed with stomach cancer late last year, which he overcame and returned to touring in the spring of 2017. Which we told you, I didn't see him once. I saw him twice last month, 2 days in a row. We saw him on the main stage at Pickathon, and then we saw him play in the woods, a little more intimate space. He also threw roses out at the end of each show. We have one of the roses from Charles Bradley. Do you know anything about Charles Bradley? He was originally a nobody, a James Brown impersonator. His real music career took off only in the last decade or so when Daptone Records, home to now the late, great Sharon Jones. On the current tour, Charles Bradley said he began to feel run down, according to a new press release announcing the cancellations. He then learned that his cancer spread to his liver, though it hasn't returned to his stomach, and he will be taking time off to focus on recovery and treatment, as we should all pretty much always want to focus on recovery and treatment. Prevention's worth a lot. That's what we talk about a lot on our Wednesday episodes. Let's continue to look at media memes, my friends, as we now turn to one of the most hated people. And as we've been pointing out many, many times, in this new fake media sphere, you're given your heroes and you're given your villains. You're told who to love and you're told who to boo. And everybody gets their little 2 minutes hate. See American Horror Story for 40 minutes hate. Former pharmaceutical CEO Martin Shkreli has put the only known copy of a Wu-Tang Clan album he bought for $2 million in 2015 up for freaking sale on eBay. In the auction listing for Once Upon a Time in Shaolin, Shkreli writes that he has not carefully listened to the album. He adds that he purchased the double album as a gift to the Wu-Tang Clan for their tremendous musical output, but instead received scorn from one of the members of the group. Ghostface Killah mocked Shkreli in a video last year, calling him the man with the 12-year-old body. The top bid for the album stood at just less than $1 million early Thursday. Pharma Bro even referred to Pharma Bro in the headline from the Associated Press. Pharma Bro Shkreli was convicted last month of deceiving investors in a pair of failed hedge funds, which maybe explains why he's trying to offload the Wu-Tang record.
It appears that Wu-Tang Clan's coveted Once Upon a Time in Shaolin album could be in the process of swapping hands. Martin Shkreli, the infamous former pharmaceutical exec, currently facing federal fraud charges and owner of the album, which he purchased for $2 million in December 2015, has listed it on eBay. As of Wednesday morning, the last bid was around $100,000 and still quickly growing. In a description for the sale set to end September 15th, Shkreli referenced his issues with those in Wu-Tang, saying, "I decided to purchase this album as a gift to the Wu-Tang Clan for their tremendous musical output. Instead, I received scorn from at least one of their least intelligent members, and the world at large failed to see my purpose of putting a serious value behind music." Given that Shkreli first garnered notoriety for hiking the price of an HIV drug, there is some irony in the fact that he plans to donate half of the proceeds from the sale of Once Upon a Time in Shaolin to medical research. The latest news surrounding Once Upon a Time in Shaolin comes weeks after Shkreli played a portion of the album during a live stream. Think Wu-Tang's multi-million-dollar album will finally get into the hands of fans away from Shkreli?
God damn, Troll America. You are pretty funny sometimes. The least intelligent member. I don't know if you want to insult the clan. So I busted open the eBay link in the page. It is currently, as I come to you Friday, September 8th at 9:36 a.m., it's at $1,000,700. It's got 7 days and 9 hours left, and it shows him, he's holding up a picture of it. He wrote a little handwritten note that says 9/5/17, selling WTC album. And that's when I realized Wu-Tang Clan could also have the same abbreviation as the World Trade Center. Art imitates life, imitates politics, my friends. One good story to turn this is, I think this Media Memes episode has a little bit from all our other fields. Geopolitics, cyberspace war, food world order, and now holy hexes, where aforementioned disgraced pharmaceutical CEO Martin Shkreli claims to have Hillary Clinton's DNA and has threatened to clone her in a bizarre series of Facebook posts. Shkreli also offered a $5,000 reward for an additional lock of her hair. Now, the story from RT has the Facebook post embedded, and it says this Facebook post is no longer available. It may have been removed, or the privacy settings of the post may have changed. Shkreli previously claimed to have sequences, referring, hopefully in jest, to DNA samples from the former presidential candidate in his possession. One of the Facebook posts, which still exists, cloning Hillary Clinton would be a societal and environmental catastrophe the likes of which the world has never seen. It would make climate change look inconsequential, but might be already. That's another story. I hold in my hands a whole exome sequence of this monster. The Bible once predicted end of days, and a close reading of Revelation suggests this is what we're dealing with. I hope you pray with me as I seek guidance from so many on what to do. I fear I will let mankind down, but I will do what needs to be done. His bizarre posts haven't gone unnoticed. Apparently, Shkreli claims to have been contacted by the Secret Service. Though he declined their alleged offer of an interview, the Secret Service has requested an interview with me. I am declining that interview. Schedule's full. I will be peacefully protesting the Hillary Clinton book signing in New York, chanting "lock her up" with my friends, though. What a crazy cloning con man. Farmer Bro now jokes about cloning Hillary Clinton to destroy the planet. That's why he would do it. You can't make this stuff up until you actually do make it up and they write it into a TV show and they sell it back to you. Season 3 of Mr. Robot.
He made me shoot him. Kept saying I wasn't real. It was almost as if he were a different person.
You're right. He sometimes can become a different person. You're awake.
What am I doing here?
You don't remember. Dark Army turned on us. I think I'm next.
Stage 2 is never called off.
It was him. 5'9", F society.
I am the architect.
Still have plenty of work to do. I can stop this.
No. You pull the ripcord now, they will have won.
World catastrophes like this, they occur because men like me allow them.
Something is happening. It could be big. This is going to mark the end of E Corp.
This is your moment. You cannot turn away now.
If you pull the right strings, a puppet will dance any way you desire.
The Dark Army needs to know what he's done.
You understand the consequences.
She's a terrorist. People are going to die! If we don't do anything, there'll be no coming back from this.
Trailers all sound like every other trailer. Oh, Christian Slater, you know, you might be enough to actually make me watch a little bit of Mr. Robot, which I have not, but our buddy Darren over in Liverpool was a big fan. Media memes, meeting cyberspace war, meeting good news next week. The brilliance of Mr. Robot returning. Now, I'm not sure who owns USA Networks, but again, this is all part of the media stew where it's all owned by 3 companies. American Horror Story, brought to you by Rupert Murdoch and Sony and Fox. The Interview, brought to you by Sony and Fox. I'm not sure who owns USA Networks. We'll have to look at that later. I do know who owns The Blaze. It's Glenn Beck, and he's saying farewell to 20% of its employees. What happened? He asked in a highly emotional piece that he posted to his website and to Medium that makes it sound like someone's literally ripping out a spleen. My heart is heavy today. Today we said goodbye to just over 20% of the combined workforce of Mercury Radio Arts and The Blaze, which most of the changes happening at The Blaze. We're losing a lot of talented and committed colleagues who are some of the best human beings I know. Some have been friends of mine for 30 years. Glenn Beck's media empire implodes with layoffs. Ex-employees call him professionally bipolar. Things rise, things fall. What did we talk about earlier this week? Silicon Valley is not an unassailable fortress. It is a rotting husk waiting to be replaced. Last few stories here on our media memes. This is the point where we can, as we just heard in that Mr. Robot clip, pull the ripcord. Producer Nile Rodgers, who seemingly won't go away, has admitted to feeling uncertainty about working on George Michael's new single, Fantasy, a remix of a 1980s outtake premiered on Radio 2 on Tuesday. Nile Rodgers, of course, of Chic, and most recently on the Robots album, Daft Punk. Rodgers' confession came in response to a fan who expressed mixed feelings over the song's release. 8 months after George Michael's death. You should have mixed feelings, he said on Twitter. No one's heart was dragged through emotional ambiguity more than mine, he said. Making it all about him and moving it away from the fans. Fantasy, the song, sounds vastly different to the version that was released as a B-side in 1990 and later as a bonus track on 2010's deluxe version of the Faith album.
Find another fantasy.
So the whole thing's up on YouTube now. It is number 5 on trending. George Michael, Fantasy, featuring Nile Rodgers. Shocker. I'm a big George Michael fan. I was not really into it when he went all kind of dance poppy. It was when it all turned dance poppy and stuff after Listen Without Prejudice that I'd kind of tuned out. Now, meanwhile, in other news, 2 big teases. Shizzle. Michael Jackson's Scream. So Michael Jackson's official Twitter accounts and social media stuff sprung to life earlier this week. All it said was hashtag MJ Scream, and they had that little 15-second GIF thing. Turns out MJ Scream tease is for a, quote, collection of 13 of Michael's most electrifying and danceable tracks. So in both cases, it turns out that the George Michael and the Michael Jackson are basically rehashes. Womp womp. But fortunately, right here at the end, this is like the Deus Ex Machina, with Trump and Kim Jong-un locked in a nerve-wracking war of words that's edging the world ever closer to nuclear catastrophe. A relatively sane voice has emerged and offered to straighten things out between the leaders of the U.S. and North Korea. Dennis Rodman, the ex-NBA star who claims both Trump and Kim as friends, told Good Morning Britain Wednesday, quote, "I just want to try and straighten things out for everyone to get along together." In addition to his own mediation, Rodman suggested that Trump attempt to talk with Kim to find common ground and avoid violent confrontation. The worm is not keeping up clearly with Trump's tweets. Rodman, who added that his trips to North Korea had included lots of laughing, karaoke, skiing, and horseback riding, suggested that Trump and Kim might find unexpected common ground if they spoke. Hey, you're the phony fake frontman for a failing empire? Me too! What are the odds? And they dance off into the sunset. It is Friday, which means also New Music Friday. Holy moly, there are a ton of records coming out today. New music from Seattle's Odessa, Living Colour, Lollipuna, Ted Leo, Always, Tori Amos, The National. Even Neil Young has a new album that was recorded in 1976 and never released, is actually coming out today, called Hitchhiker. There's also new Death from Above, new Jack Johnson, that posthumous Greg Allman. Even Toby Keith, for crying out loud. You know, the Toby Keith record where he's now singing about weed. Whatever thing becomes popular, Toby Keith will sing a song about it. That's corporate media for you, my friends, and that's the look at hashtag media memes. And as is the case in every other day, I only handpick 10 or a dozen or so stories from that day's hashtag to talk about on the show. There is a wealth of other news that didn't make the cut, so to speak, but it's all that news submitted by you using the hashtags. Again, I speculate that if you just followed one of the hashtags, you would probably get a better, well-rounded look at what's really going on. Whether that's geopolitics, cyberspace war, food world order, holy hexes, or media memes. You would get a better, well-rounded, delicious, nutritious meal of what's really going on, I think, than any other sources. And it's the sources we've made ourselves. Now, a new Bela Fleck out as well today. We'll see what we can cram in to our New Music Friday episode of your daily DJ set at noon. That's right, you get 2 shows a day live for Media Monarchy. You get your morning Monarchy and your daily DJ set at noon called Pump Up the Volume. We're going to go out today with a song from a UK duo celebrating 21 years together with a brand new single. They are called Lamb, and they're coming up in just a few minutes. But let's look at this day in history, September 8th, 1504. Michelangelo's David unveiled in Florence on this day. Are we talking about editing and censoring art? If you put up a video of Michelangelo's dong on YouTube, they'll probably take it down. September 8th, 1810, we get a little more current. The Tonkin sets sail from New York Harbor with 33 employees of John Jacob Astor's newly created Pacific Fur Company on board. After a 6-month journey around the tip of South America, the ship arrives at the mouth of the Columbia River, and Astor's men establish the fur trading town of Astoria, Oregon. You Goonies. You Goonies live in a town created by one of the 13 bloodlines of the Illuminati. September 8th, 1888, in London, the body of Jack the Ripper's second murder victim, Annie Chapman, was found. 1892, the Pledge of Allegiance is first recited, and it would be fixed a century or so later by Jello Biafra and turned into the Pledge of Defiance. September 8th, 1900, the Galveston hurricane, a powerful hurricane, hits Galveston, Texas, killing about 8,000 people. On this day, 1900, 117 years ago, again, past its prologue, history repeats itself, and everybody rebuilds in dangerous areas. September 8th, 1926, Germany is admitted to the League of Nations on this day, and in 1930, 3M begins marketing Scotch transparent tape. 3M, we don't make the things you use, we make the things you use get filled with chemicals. Now, September 8th, 1935, this is an interesting one. The Hoboken Four, featuring a young Francis Sinatra as lead singer, appeared on Major Bow's Amateur Hour on WOR Radio in New York on this day in 1935.
We have now the Hoboken Four. They call themselves the Singing and Dancing Fools. Who will speak for the group?
I will. I'm Frank. We're looking for jobs. How about it? Everyone that's ever heard us liked it.
My hair is curly, the man got curly hair. My teeth are pearly, and they also have pearly teeth. Just because I'll always wear a smile. Must always wear a smile. Like to dress up
That is Frank Sinatra with his very first group, and he's born in Hoboken, New Jersey, the Hoboken Four. And even that great little bit is, who's going to speak for the group? I will, I'm Frank. And then he goes immediately already off script. Hey, we need work, how about it? And you can hear even the audience laugh. It's unscripted. It was in that exact moment that he pretty much set his course. You might know I've become kind of a big Frank Sinatra head over the last couple of years. I love the fact that he's an Italian dude of poor parents who made his life what he wanted it to be. Artists create their world. Let's continue to look at this day in history. September 8th, 1944, London is hit by a V-2 rocket for the first time on this day. And in 1946, a 95.6% vote in favor of abolishing the monarchy in Bulgaria. Now, as long as we're mentioning Bulgaria, the top comment on the latest episode, or rather now the previous episode of New World Next Week, where we talk about the CIA stealing biometrics and running guns and weapons in Syria. The top comment on that episode, and we all know this because a journalist in Bulgaria broke the story and was fired for the pleasure. The top comment, I'm from Bulgaria and I didn't know this story and I found out about it from New World Next Week. That's, holy moly. September 8th, 1951, in San Francisco, 48 nations sign a peace treaty with Japan in formal recognition of the end of the Pacific War. Sorry for all those concentration camps. We swear we won't do it again. September 8th, 1952, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, CBC, makes its first televised broadcast on the second escape of the dang Boyd gang. September 8th, 1960, in Huntsville, Alabama, U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower formally dedicates the Marshall Space Flight Center. 1966, the landmark American science fiction television series Star Trek premiered on this day with its very first episode aired. That's right, The Man Trap. September 8th, 1971, in the District of Criminals, the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts is inaugurated, with the opening feature being the premiere of Leonard Bernstein's Mass. Now, interestingly enough, my lovely wife Cassie spent many a time at the Kennedy Center as a young girl. That's where she saw, Dizzy Gillespie. September 8th, 1972, Mott the Hoople release. That's right, all the young dudes on this day. Thanks, David Bowie. September 8th, 1974, U.S. President Stumbling Jerry Ford, pardons former President Richard Nixon for any crimes Nixon may have committed while in office. Can you believe that? I'm shocked that a president would abuse their power and pardon their cronies. Whew, good thing that doesn't happen anymore. September 8th, 1978. They called it Black Friday. A massacre by soldiers against protesters in Tehran provoked 700 to 3,000 deaths, and it marks the beginning of the end of the monarchy in Iran on this day in 1978. Again, thanks CIA. September 8th, 1988, Elton John sold a bunch of his costumes and concert memorabilia at an auction in London for $6.2 million. Holy moly. 1994, U.S. Air Flight 427 on approach to Pittsburgh International Airport suddenly crashes in clear weather, killing 132 on board. It results in the most extensive aviation investigation in world history and altering manufacturing practices in the industry. September 8th, 2006, Whitney Houston filed for divorce from Bobby Brown. The couple had been married in 1992. Now, the two stories published to my own website a decade ago today, September 8th, 2007, on Media Monarchy. Microchip implants cause tumors in lab animals. The Associated Press will issue a breaking story this weekend revealing the microchip implants have induced cancer in laboratory animals and dogs. The other story? Neocons enlist bin Laden's help to counter 9/11 truth. Discredited Pentagon-affiliated Intel Center to release another dubious tape right when the Bush crime family needs it most. Osama pops up hours after a new Zogby poll shows Americans want a new 9/11 investigation for the second time running. Now, on that brand new episode of New World Next Week, we asked the question, where the hell is 9/11 truth now? Celebrating birthdays today, quite the batch. It's always interesting as the way the stars align, if you will. September 8th, American singer-songwriter, guitarist, and quite the yodeler, Jimmy Rogers, born on this day. It's also Sid Caesar's birthday, Lyndon LaRouche, Peter Sellers, Patsy Cline, Bernie Sanders. It's a pretty big start. We also got Kelly Grocott, who was a bass player for ELO, passed away a few years ago. Pigpen, born on this day. He died way back in 73. The Dead, however, will continue to play on and on and on. Hey, we're doing big farewell shows. Hey, guess what? We announced a bunch of new tours with John Mayer again. It was in the news yesterday. It's also Benjamin Orr from the Cars' birthday. He died back in 2000. And Stein Erik Olsen out of Norway. Out of Norwegian. Oh, it's that famed skeptic, Michael Shermer's birthday. It's also David Steele. He played bass for The Beat and Fine Young Cannibals. Kimberly Pierce, director of Boys Don't Cry. And it's Nico Case's birthday. So I find that pretty interesting that Nico Case probably growing up was like, ooh, I share a birthday with Jimmy Rogers and Patsy Cline. I think I might be an alt-country singer. It's David Arquette's birthday. It is Lachlan Murdoch's birthday. We were just talking about Rupert's son very recently. Kennedy, a.k.a. Lisa Kennedy Montgomery, former MTV, now fake conservative. It's her birthday. Lorenz Tate. And then the pop stars, Pink, Wiz Khalifa, and Avicii. All those folks celebrating birthdays today. One or two of them might weasel into our daily DJ set at noon, but we're going to do our best to make it a New Music Friday episode, and we'll wet that whistle, as I like to say, with brand new music from the UK duo known as Lamb. I've been a fan of these guys for quite some time. I actually have some of their earliest promo 12 inches. One of them even has a misprint, which, of course, makes it that much nerdier and valuable. They are celebrating 21 years of being a duo. That's Andy Barlow and Lou Rhodes, a.k.a. Lamb. And they are celebrating their 21-year anniversary with a brand new song called Illumina. That's how we're going to wrap up another week of news brought to you by you, my friends. Huge thanks for being here. And again, I hope you spread the link, spread the word. MediaMonarchy.com/listen, Monday through Friday. News, music, and more. Hope you have a safe and fantastic week. Be positive, be productive, be good, lean, and move forward with love, learn our way forward. All those good things, all those good parts that we need to work towards. Try and put away those bad parts. Monday, of course, will be the 12th anniversary of Media Monarchy hitting the airwaves, as we also commemorate the 16th anniversary of that catalyzing catastrophic event that, in a lot of ways, set us on the path that we're having right here. There it is. The Media Memes edition of your Morning Monarchy for Friday, September 8th, 2017. I'm James Evan Pilato from MediaMonica.com, thanking you so very much for listening and taking part, and reminding you, as always, like Jello Biafra of the Dead Kennedy said, don't hate the media, become the media. Take care.
He said, life's the roughest ocean. She said, then it's calm and blue. White water tries to pull you under, and love's the only craft to save you. Illumina, 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 Illumina. He said, each of us is broken. She said, well, that's the greatest thing. In total, fragile imperfection.
listening to Media Monarchy with James Evan Pilato. Since 2005, Media Monarchy has covered the real news about politics, health, technology and the occult, all remixed with music and media that matters. Go to MediaMonarchy.com/support and become a monthly subscriber so you can help keep independent, non-commercial, alternative media going and growing. Thanks.